Ojvazo Dvari, welcome to the world building stream. How's everybody doing? It is hot in Los Angeles today. It's like 80 degrees out of nowhere, and so I am kind of sweating. I might have to set up a fan, try to cool down my computer, because when it gets hot in this extremely hot climate, my computer doesn't like it so much. I'm doing okay today, guys. I am a little overworked at the present. I think between trying to do streaming and content creation and also running all these professional games, I'm starting to get a little bit stretched thin. I'm not even like making monsters right now, right? So I'm a little tired. I kind of wish I could take like a week off or something like that, but that is not on the docket for me right now. I have a lot of games that I'm kind of juggling right now. So I'm good. Everything's fine. It's just, you know, it's a good problem to have, is to have too much content, too many games to run. But yeah, what's going on, everybody? Talk to me. Thanks for coming. It is the world building stream, so we are here to make worlds, and we are going to talk today about one of the Dwarven Clans of Khûm. We are talking about Clan Lodestone. We have built, I think, all of the 6 other Elder Clans. We talked about Clan Deepvein, and we talked about Clan Ironspring. Oh, maybe we haven't done Clan Ironspring, but I think for spoiler reasons, I'm going to keep that one closer to the chest. We talked about Clan Golden Plate, and we talked about Clan Bright Shard. We talked about Clan True Silver, and we talked about oh, who's the other one I'm missing? Deepvein. Okay, let's see if I can go through them all. Bright Shard, Deepvein, Golden Plate, Iron Spring, True Silver. Oh my gosh, who's the clan that I'm missing here? I'm in the document. Let me just scroll up. Golden Plate, yep. Deepvein, yep. Bright Shard. Shapestone's not one of them. Oath Shield's not one of the great. Who's the other? Okay, so there's 7. So there's True Silver, and then Hornwinder and Oath Shield are both Underclans. Bright Shard, yep. Deepvein, yep. Golden Plate, yep. Lodestone, yep. Iron Spring, yeah. Who's the other one? Oh, Cloud Peak. We actually haven't done Cloud Peak either. Okay, that might be one we have to do at some point here. Okay, so maybe this isn't the last of the clans. But it is one of the most mysterious. It's one we haven't really talked about very much on the stream. And so I'm excited to kind of dive into Clan Lodestone. So I'm actually going to get my fan set up over here because I'm a little concerned about my computer overheating. But then once that is set up, then we will dive into Clan Lodestone. So let me go get that arranged. One moment while I go do that. One sec. Oh, also, sorry that there was no music in the intro. Something is going on. Like, this thing happens on my computer where, like, when there's not enough space, it will automatically move some content onto the cloud, and I didn't realize that. Hey, what's up, Shadowrunner? I don't think any of the Elder Clans build golems. That's probably one of the Underclans. But let me go hook up my fan, and then I'll be right back. I'm seeing a little bit of delay on my end. I'm wondering if there's a delay for y'all as well. I tried to turn the latency to low because it used to be on normal latency, and I think there was too much of a gap. But I'm going to set up my fan, and then I will be right back. One moment. Shit, God. Did you hear me drop my headphones? It's like, God damn it, shit. Everything's cool. I am back. Yeah, there does seem to be some latency on my picture. What if it's just a matter of the heat or what's going on? But yeah, okay. So let's talk about these clans. All right, cool. I just want to make sure my fan wasn't so noisy that it was gonna get in the way and catch too much on the mic. Okay, it seems fine. All right, so Clan Lodestone. Let's talk about them. So Lodestone is one of the Elder Clans, and they are interesting because they are kind of the least known, sort of most mysterious clan. They go all the way back to the beginning of the kingdom, right? But they are very isolationist. They don't really interact with the other clans very much. They are kind of your classic religious zealots, right? They are devoted to Zamut, who is the dwarven goddess of war, specifically like the dwarven conception of war, which is all about siege, right? And all about defense and fortifications and strongholds and things like that. Dwarves believe that war is something that you endure, not something that you wage, right? You don't go out seeking war. You shore up your defenses and wait for the enemy to come to you. So, Zamut is the goddess that kind of exemplifies that, and she is all about readiness and preparedness and drills, and she's also the goddess of laws. She's the goddess of justice. She's sort of famously the goddess of secrets as well, because she it's all about kind of like closing her lips, right? She has taken a vow of silence in the mythos, and supposedly never speaks. So this Clan Lodestone, is devoted to her, and I wanted to have them kind of stand apart from the rest of the Elder Clans, which are kind of like the 7 ruling clans. Think of them like the major houses in Westeros, right? Like there are lots of other little houses, but they're kind of the 7, like the Tullys and the Aarons and the Starks that rule over the others. Lodestone is one of those. But I wanted them to kind of stand apart and have them feel, yeah, exactly. Let them blunt their spears on our impenetrable walls. I wanted them to kind of stand apart a little bit from the rest of the Elder Clans and not quite go in for all the politics. Whereas a clan like Brightshard especially, or Iron Spring, or Deep Vein, or Golden Plate is going to be more likely to kind of like wheel and deal. Clan Lodestone is pretty self-sufficient and concerned with its own internal affairs. So they are not prominent in the histories because they don't really stick their necks out. Kind of think of them almost like a North Korea or something like that, right? Where it's this very kind of isolationist culture, and not a lot of other dwarves know much about Clan Lodestone unless they have married in or are kind of part of that family. And to be clear, a dwarven clan in this case, they are family-ish, but they tend to be like groups of families, right? So you can still marry inside the clan and things like that. There are matchmakers who are very kind of religious about, who can marry whom in bloodlines and things like that. So we have all these different categories here for our clan to kind of flesh them out. We have famous personages, history, materials, other clans, philosophy, politics, prominent members, and then seat. And those are the kind of like the different categories that I use to go through them. So like if we go back up here to Golden Plate, right, we talk about their summary. They're the youngest of the Elder Clans. We have 3 famous personages. Usually it's like the person who founded the clan, often some kind of cultural figure, and then often I will try to have the last one be someone who is connected to the sorrows in some way, right? We break down the history into the 3 categories we always do. We have the ancient history, and then we have the 7 sorrows, and then we have the more recent history. We talk about the 3 materials that they mine that are unique to them, and then we talk about their like interactions with other clans, often trying to do a spotlight on some of the Underclans that support them, right? So in the case of Golden Plate, we have Clan Whitecoin, who are metallurgists, right? Gem cutters, who are, gem cutters, and then Ambergris, who are alchemists. We talk about their philosophy, kind of what they care about most, almost like, think about like ideal on a character, on a 5th edition character, it's kind of like that. And then politics, and we talk a lot about like where they are politically at the beginning of the game, and when Harada makes her claim, what happens. And then prominent members, talk about 3 to 4 members of the house that are going to be relevant to the campaign. And then we talk a little bit about their seat, which in this case is called Golden Point. So let me see what we can fill out. Vroom vroom, that we already know. So the seat we know is called Threshold. We know their 3 materials. We have Lodestone is their big one, iron and shale. Oh, Shadowrunner says, with longevity, even siring of offspring is an act of creation that is not to be taken lightly. Indeed. Yeah, especially with dwarves, that's a big deal. Great. So we know that it's called Threshold. I have some idea about their history. And this is one thing I haven't talked about much on the stream. So if you are interested in listening to this podcast, God knows when it's going to come out. I haven't even started thinking about recording it yet, right? But this is going to be one of kind of the big campaign mysteries we're going to go into is what's going on with Lodestone. So let's talk about them. Let's start with the history. No, you know what? Let's do their like materials. Let's go materials, philosophy, history, and then we can kind of break it down from there. So let's talk about Lodestone. Lodestone is the signature mineral of the clan. The way that I do my Lodestone, obviously Lodestone is a thing historically, but this is kind of the magical version thereof, is a naturally magnetic rock substance that can conduct. It's a naturally magnetic ore, actually. Naturally magnetic ore. Obviously they call it Lodestone, but it's an iron ore that can conduct electricity. That's especially good at conducting electricity. Good at conducting electricity. Found only beneath Threshold. Threshold. Lodestone is quintessential in the clan's weapons and armor. So the idea is that they are particularly known for their shields and their phalanxes. They basically send magnetic pulses through the arms and armor, right? Particularly the shields, to get them to lock together. Like a phalanx is almost... a Lodestone phalanx is almost impossible to break through because of these, like, shields. Hey, what's up, Jose? Thanks for coming, man. Because of these shields that, like, interlock and then magnetically clamp, right? That's kind of their big ticket item are these shields, but they obviously can be used for lots of other things. I kind of want to explore the notion of, like, what does a hold that basically have access to electricity do with it, right? And because they're so isolated, they don't really share their technology. Like, none of the clans really go around sharing their signature materials. But Lodestone, in particular, is very covetous of that. So because Lodestone is an iron ore, they also have like high deposits of iron. Iron is extremely common in the Phalanx, which is the name of the mountains that they're constructed in, and is mined extensively by clan. Yeah, totally, Jose. It's a shield turtle, right? Like, they all lock in like a shield wall by Clan Lodestone and its Underclans. They produce the most weapons of all. Hey, what's up, David? Look at all these people coming in. Ooh, toggable magnetic flooring. That's pretty cool. Ooh, I'm excited to talk about Threshold. That's going to be neat. Of all the kingdom. Like, they are kind of the iron basket, if you will, of Khûm. Okay. In all the kingdom? I hate when it, like, jumps over onto an extra line like that. So we'll just say iron is common in the Phalanx. Okay, cool. And then shale. I want to look this up because I wrote this down a while ago. I wanted shale to be one of the materials that they use, but I actually don't really know much about shale. I think I must have read somewhere that it's like often found near or with iron. So I'm just going to look up what I can about shale on my phone here, rather than trying to overtax my poor overheating computer. Cause it's so hot here, y'all. It's so hot here, y'all. Ooh, high-speed mine carts. That's pretty neat. Yeah, so it says soft, finely stratified sedimentary rock, excuse me, that formed from consolidated mud or clay and can be split easily into fragile slabs. It's not really that connected to iron. Interesting. Although they are kind of along the Kudranone. So the Kudranone is a railgun. Yeah, that might be a little bit much. But I like the idea of, like, yeah, maybe they have, like, magnetically thrown spears or stuff like that. Could be kind of cool. Characterized by thin laminate. It is the most common sedimentary rock. Yeah, so they are built along the... So the Kudranone is this river that runs all the way through Khûm. And it kind of comes in and out, above ground and underground, and it sort of crosses their territory, like runs along the phalanx. So I wonder if something about this big river is what gives them a lot of shale. I mean, they could even just have like a lot of ceramics. Could be interesting. I'm just trying to think, like, what do you use it for, right? What's its function? Like, obviously you can mine it. But, like, what is the point of using it? Like, does it have any function? Magnetism and electricity can be used for electroplating alloys that could move directionally by changing the polarity at the endpoint and zero friction. Oh, that's cool. What is shale used for? What is shale used for? To brick, pottery, tile, and cement. Ooh, cement is kind of interesting. Natural gas and petroleum may be extracted from oil shale. So, yeah, we'll just say that, like, due to the phalanx's proximity to the Kudranone, to the... it wouldn't be Jose unless he was screaming my name with 5 exclamation points. Toss the dwarf. If they figure out the basics of railguns and use the shields for a magnetized floor, they can send a warrior across the front lines. Yeah, that's cool. Like a catapult. We'll see. They're so, like, whoosh, right? Like, the idea of them, like, shooting a dwarf alone might be a little dangerous. But I like the idea of them also being able to, like, pull weapons and shields. So, like, if you come in at a dwarf with a lodestone shield, they are able to activate it and then, like, suck your weapon to them. Right, they're able to reverse the polarity and bring in weapons too. Right, they can make their shields magnetic and can harm. It can pull arrows to them. It can pull shields and spears and things like that. To the Kudranone, the river, the massive river that flows through Khûm, shale is common in the region and used for pottery. Yeah, I think that's good for now. Shale constructions would be good neutral materials with all that magnetism around. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Okay, cool. Sweet. So those are their materials. This is what they have to work with. I like the idea of them basically innovating a lot of these things because they have access to these kind of like highly electrical materials, but they don't share them, right? They like hold on to them and refuse to kind of like spread the wealth. So these are all things that are found in their hold, in Threshold. They don't necessarily share with other dwarves, right? Okay, I think that's cool. Let's go and talk about their philosophy maybe really quick, and then kind of like backpedal into history. So their philosophy is all about defense. That is their primary thing that they care about. So if you look at, some of these other clans, like Golden Plate, again, just as an example, they are into their status, right? To a Golden Plate, what matters most is how you are seen. Appearances and titles and decorations are everything. Ruling doesn't simply mean power. Prestige is equally important. Above all else, the Golden Plates seek a pedestal above other dwarves with many loyal peons below to worship them, right? Whereas, say, this is Deep Vein, their philosophy is traditionalism. The old ways are the best ways. Khûm belongs to dwarves, and dwarves belong underground. Those who would consort with humans and elves and new ideas are no longer dwarves and are to be shunned. The old ways must be safeguarded and protected at all costs. So there's kind of a similarity there between Clan Deep Vein and what I feel like the kind of philosophy of Lodestone is. So I wonder if defense actually isn't quite right. So let's talk about this. Like, I wonder if it's unity is their philosophy, right? If they're a clan that is kind of built on the back of, like, defense obviously being important, and it's one of their sort of prime virtues. But I think the thing they care about more is the unity of the clan. And those two things kind of go hand in hand, right? That, like, a phalanx doesn't work. Yeah, I'm not familiar with shale either, Jose, but that's kind of cool for heat-resistant pottery tiles. Yeah, I think that's neat. In order for the clan to, that's cool. Yeah, part of the issue with a major source of lodestone, magic stuff, separating larger portions of it reduces the entire field strength, so hoarding it is part of the secret to their defense. Yeah, I think that's totally true. Yeah, if the enemy gets their hands on these, like, lodestone weapons, right? Yeah, that's neat. So I kind of think unity is more interesting than defense. Again, I think those two things go hand in hand, but in terms of their, like, day-to-day philosophy, one of the ideas I was playing with is that because Lodestone is so cut off from the rest of the clans, and let's talk about that, because I like the notion that they're isolationists, right? But why are they isolationists? Why are they so devoted to Zamut? Where does that come from? You know, they just are right now, and I'd love to figure out, like, is there something, oh man, like the idea of there being some existential threat that they, like, contained and didn't tell anyone about is kind of cool, right? Imagine if, like, there was a fissure or an opening underground that they contained, right? And so, like, why would they be so concerned with defense and with, like, procedure and protection, you know, unless there was some obvious threat that they were kind of fighting against? Yeah, I think that's cool. And I like the notion of them being protective of their hold, that there is something in there that they don't want anyone to know about or to see. So I had a couple of different ideas with them. I liked the idea that so basically, like, the big, let's write down the things we know. The big secrets with Lodestone is that, like, Clan Lodestone foresaw the events of the Seven Sorrows, like, way before, right? And took precautions. What they did not do was warn the rest of Khûm about it. Right? Like, my original idea was that they saw something that, like, so Ignon is the goddess of the earth, right? Kind of the mother goddess. Yeah, I think them being jailers to something terrible is cool. Totally, David, right? They foresaw yeah, right, totally. And they're totally self-appointed. Like, nobody knows that this thing is happening, that this is a problem. That's cool. That adds a whole extra dimension. So the idea was that they stumbled across, like, a cavern or a cave where they found a message from the earth goddess, right? It was like natural carvings, or it was runes, or whatever. Like, the notion that they stumbled across this prediction of what was going to happen, right? That in X number of years, you know, Khûm will fall and all these terrible things will happen. And, you know, it was like the goddess of the earth, like, reaching out to try to warn the dwarves, but Clan Lodestone found it first and didn't tell anyone about it, right? They kept that a secret, and they prepared because they worried that if everyone knew, right, it would either cause a panic or it would deplete resources, or maybe this opportunity of, like, you know, we aren't, like, they don't deserve it, right? If it is this kind of like this was the message she gave us, she didn't give it to anyone else. And what I love about that is that, like, there's this inherent hypocrisy to this idea that if all they care about is unity, they don't care about unity with other dwarves. They only care about unity within the clan, right? So they found out that this was going to happen, right? And they took the necessary precautions. And so when the rest of the dwarves were fleeing, Clan Lodestone petrified its entire population. Planning to unpetrify once the sorrows had passed. So they had like this contingency, right? Like they enacted the, I don't know if we'll call this that, but I'll call it contingency for now. Petrify their entire population. So it's kind of like cryogenic freeze, right? Is sort of what I wanted to do with it. And this idea of like having this campaign about dwarves and like you know, stonework and those kinds of things. I loved the idea of the players going into one of these dungeons and discovering almost like terracotta soldiers, right? Oh, maybe that's what you do with the shale. Terracotta? That's kind of cool. Discovering all of these dwarves that have just been preserved, right? Like cryogenically through like magic petrification, right? Like the entire clan is still here. They're just petrified. And maybe, you know, maybe they unpetrify at a certain point. Maybe the thing that was supposed to unpetrify them didn't go off. And so now the question is like, do you unfreeze them? Will they help us? Will they not help us? Like, how will having this new clan just kind of get thrown into the mix, right? So then the story, right, is that, like, they disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to them. All the rest of the clans fled. The Lodestones closed their doors and never left. And no one knows. It's believed that, like, maybe they all died or they took a suicide pact or something like that. Like, it's all these stories. But the truth is, and this is something no one knows, is that they are all sealed up inside, right? And they are all petrified. So to them, no time has passed. Right, you kind of get that cool Captain America frozen in ice thing, right? So the reason is that, like, they remain petrified. They remain petrified to this day, either because they planned it that way, or the plan went wrong. And they were meant to unfreeze, you know, years ago. Because there's something kind of interesting about, like... Oh, sorry, there's a bunch of chat. What if they found, like, the magic 8-ball, and it's a warning prophecy, but it can only be read if they floated between 2 lodestones at certain times. So they read little by little, they got it wrong. I like the idea of, like, them getting it right, but them just being dicks about it. Like, I think there's something interesting about... Like, they had all the information. They weren't hiding anything, right? Or they didn't misinterpret anything. They just hid it. They just didn't want other people to know about it. Because then it raises this question of, like, do we unfreeze them? Do they deserve to be unfrozen? Right? I also had this notion too that they destroyed the cavern or whatever that they found, right? That where this history was like played out on the walls. They destroyed it so that way no one else would find it, right? So they recorded it, but then they got rid of it. So like I liked the notion of coming across this place that has been like scraped. Ooh, yeah, David, that's cool. They didn't think it was their place to alter a prophecy. Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. Okay, so on the outside, Lodestone Explorer, it's amazing terracotta. On the inside, it's all secret jailer conspiracy. Yeah, exactly. There is a lot of conspiracy around them. So I like the notion then of unity being the thing, because I think there's something cool about, like... So the other question we have then, right, is that if they... Because I didn't have the idea that they were, like, jailing something. I think that's cool. If they jailed something... and they're petrified. How have those two things interacted, right? Like, did they set a timer on the jailed entity or crack or whatever it is? Like, I like the idea that it has to be, like, maintained. You know, it's not like, okay, it's safe. It's like you have to pour X amount of battery power or whatever into the prison every X number of years, and they've missed the last time they were supposed to do this because they're still petrified. Right? I kind of think that's cool. So they would have contained this a long time ago. Let's talk about that. What did they contain? Right? What did they discover? And again, it sets this precedent for them, like, finding important things and then hiding it from people. All they do is, like, make these important discoveries and then keep it hush-hush. So the obvious thing to me is that there was a fissure. There was an opening in the earth, right? Like, so one of the clans, Deep Vein, is all about, like, burrowing down and obviously digging as deep as they can. And they mine a material called sacristeel, which is basically, like, the shell around the core of the earth where Yogg is contained. And they mine that, not knowing that Yogg is underneath it. And so they kind of play with this idea of, like, Yogg is just below our feet and we have no idea. Right? It's if you want to have that delved too greedily and too deep thing. So, I mean, obviously the thing here is Yogg. If we're trying to think of an idea for, like, what did Lodestone imprison? What did they capture? But I don't want to, like, undercut Deep Vein by doing that, right? It's got to be something similar, but not exactly the same. So maybe it is a demon. Maybe it is, like, a creature that Yogg made and they captured. Maybe it is an open fissure that, like, Yogg managed to crack the earth or crack through the sacristeel. There's, like, a hole in it or something like that, right? Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of them containing it, but I don't know what it is that isn't just a hole in the earth, right? Which is fine, because I want to have it. There's another plot of a place that, like, has a crack in the sacristeel, but it's tiny. It's like an itty bitty little, like, impurity, and then Yogg has, like, over the course of the 500 years, has just, like, poured evil out of this, like, tiny little fracture. Yeah, they didn't really have too many others, Shadowrunner. They had the giants. The fire giants were, like, an ancient enemy of Clan Lodestone. Or not of Lodestone, of the dwarves in general. They came up through a volcano, like a volcanic vent. You know what I mean? Like, so maybe it's giants is kind of interesting. I think, like, if it's in the earth, it feels like it has to be Yogg, you know? And the idea of, like, a fissure proper, like, from the podcast, those of you who listen to the podcast know that they use those, like, big cracks in the earth to, like, transport themselves around. The notion that they have, like, they would have found this naturally occurring, like, yeah, I kind of think, like, a fault in creation, right, is really interesting. A fault in creation. A legitimate fissure that opens into this swirling void of Yogg. Clan Lodestone encountered this fissure and managed to seal it away with a tremendous Lodestone seal. And I think the idea is that, like, Yogg is kind of constantly assaulting it, right? And, like, throwing its evil and its power against the seal. Because, yeah, I think it works. I think there is a difference between what Lodestone is doing and what Deep Vein is doing. So Deep Vein doesn't realize that they're weakening the sacristeel, whereas Lodestone has very intentionally contained it, right? I guess it doesn't quite have, like, the same vibe as, like, there's a prison cell in the middle of the hold, but I think it's fine. I like the idea of, like, a big ass metal Lodestone seal in the middle of the hold, like on the bottom level, right? Because the notion, too, that, like, the gods had an imperfection. Oh, yeah, because then that's all that Zamut shit, right? So Zamut is all about, like, defense and holding back. So if they believe that, like, Umbor, who made the shell, right, the god of creation, made a mistake, right? There's a flaw in Umbor's design, that it's their job as, like, devotees of Zamut to protect that, to guard the door, essentially, right? Yeah. So their religious fanaticism comes from the need to protect Khûm from this fault. And I think that's what's cool about it, is that it's all this idea of creation, right? That, like, if they believe their gods are smiths and makers, and, like, as a theme, the notion of, like, we protect against that, right? Like, we are the seal that goes over the wound. You know, it's like whatever the Japanese style, that thing where you use the gold to fill in the cracks, right? Like, I think that's how they think of themselves. Like, they stand on the breach. You know, ooh, the breach is kind of a cool title too. They follow Zamut, who guards the door during the shattering, which is kind of their version of the Ragnarok. Okay. Yeah. So they've done that. So what I like is the idea that the Seven Sorrows were coming, right? And they knew about it, and they once again hid that fact, right? Like, they knew, they found a cavern where the sorrows were spelled out in no uncertain detail. The volcano, the dragons, the Mad King. Right, like, I don't want it to be like, they misinterpreted a different thing. Oh, that's cool, Shadowrunner. Like, it's Yogg's. That's interesting. They kept the fissure closed. I was calling it the door. The fissure closed, or the breach. They kept the fissure closed, but Yogg's influence corrupted their minds and made them paranoid about other dwarves discovering it. So, like, Yogg kind of kept them from telling anyone, right? Yeah, I love that, Chad. And, like, a lot of that, like, isolationism comes from the kind of, like, subtle workings of Yogg that they don't realize. And this is one thing I really like doing in the setting, is that, like, if you're going to have this, like, big, monolithic, like, fundamental evil, right? Oh, how dark is it, by the way? I should turn on a light. I'm getting kind of shadowy. Yeah, I'm getting a little shadowy. Let me go turn on a light. I'll be right back. Do. That's better. Okay, I'm back. If you're gonna have this, like, big, fun, foundational, monolithic evil, like, there is something fun about saying that, like, every kind of evil can eventually, maybe it's a really long and convoluted thread, be traced back to Yogg. Oh, is my voice getting kind of scratchy? Apologies. Thank you for the reminder. So, yeah, okay. So they found this cavern where the sorrows were spelled out in no uncertain detail. The volcano, the dragons, the Mad King. But instead of warning the dwarves, the other dwarves, they kept it secret. They rationalized that if the other clans were meant to know, they would know. Instead, they prepared a contingency to survive the sorrows. And I mean, I think you could make the argument that they misinterpreted it because they thought it would be like catastrophic destruction, like all dwarves would die, you know, like they think it's the shattering, right? They don't necessarily even think it's the just the sorrows. I think they think it's the end of the world. So you could kind of argue that they think that they misinterpreted it, but they knew all the details, right? These are the things that will happen when the shattering comes true. Okay. So that's kind of their ancient history. I like the idea that, like, I wanted them to have done something, like, unspeakable to have eradicated it. Like, maybe an Underclan found it? An Underclan found it and reported it to Clan Lodestone. Upon seeing it, they destroyed the Underclan and destroyed the cavern. Like, they like wiped it off the face of the earth, right? The minute they saw it, they were like, only we can know about this. I like the idea they did something really just unspeakably bad. You know, and this would have been generations ago, so it's not the current crop of dwarves that are in Lodestone. But I like the notion of, like, they have this kind of long litany of crimes that they've done. They could be really useful to the party if you can wake them up, right? Yeah, exactly. That's cool. I think that's neat. So then in the Seven Sorrows, they enact the contingency. I think the point here is that, like, they were petrified for a certain time. They petrified themselves until such a time as the world was reborn or something like that, right? Like, was reborn. But it obviously went wrong. Because that's my question. Like, is it interesting if they, like if they know that they are containing this breach, right? Then they would be hesitant to petrify themselves sort of indefinitely because they would know that at a certain point, Yogg would bust out of there. So there's got to be some kind of a, like, you know, it could be like a mythical thing where they believe that 70 years later or 770 years later, like, that could be what they misinterpreted, right? But if they did that, then, like, then they would... I'm just trying to, like, figure out, like, I like the idea that they have neglected the seal, right? That Yogg is sealed away, and that they've been petrified this whole time. But they haven't... But they've been petrified longer than they intended, and so the, like... You know, it's like when you leave your house and you set out a certain amount of food for your cat, right? But then you're gone longer than you thought, and so then your cat runs out of food. I think it's something like that, where, like, by the time the players find them, the seal that's holding Yogg is kind of, like, breaking down, and maybe the challenge of the dungeon... Yeah. Right. With the math and the scribes that translated prophecy. Yeah. I like the idea of a timer to like re-energize the seal, especially if it's like a lodestone seal. You know, it's like holding Yogg back, and that it's out of juice or something like that. So Yogg is like eating its way through it, or whatever. I feel like it's like a cork. It's like a plug, right? It's like this like 70-foot like cork they've stuck in there, and it's made of lodestone, and they charge it with electricity, you know, to kind of push Yogg back. But the batteries have long since died, and so now Yogg is just like eating its way through the metal to try to bust out. They set an automated timer to recharge the seal for X years, but something went wrong, and they've remained petrified ever since. Like, too long, right? They remained petrified longer than they intended. Okay, so the question is, why? what happened, what went wrong. You know what I mean? Jose said something about, like, was the guy who was supposed to unfreeze them, like a dead skeleton on the lever, right? Like, something like that is kind of cool. Like, your options are either that it was, like, something intentional, somebody in the clan chose not to unpetrify them. Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah. So there's a person. So this is kind of a theme we've played with several times in the campaign. The way Dwarven Lifespans work is that dwarves don't die until they have sort of completed their tasks, right? Until their work is done. So sometimes, like, most dwarves live to be 300 years or something like that. It's kind of the average dwarven lifespan. But every once in a while, you will get a dwarf that is still working on something, particularly if they've, like, sworn a vow or an oath. And then they will continue to live, but in sort of like a weakened, decrepit state until that task is completed. So in the Hall of the Hornwinder, the kind of like prequel game I ran for our patrons, they encountered one of these dwarves. There was one dwarf that was left behind in a Horn Hollow to, like, blow the horn to bring all the dwarves back, but couldn't for whatever reason, and so kind of was stuck in this, like, deathless, half-life, half-death state, right? There's at least one other major NPC in the campaign who is a super old dwarf like that, who swore an oath to get something back, and then obviously hasn't been able to because of the sorrows, and they're kind of, like, still technically the head of their house, but yeah, exactly, the vow sustains them. Still technically the head of the house, so they are unable to die until that thing happens. So what if we do a similar thing here, where there is one dwarf who was left behind to wake them, right? But Yogg managed to kind of get to them and drive them mad, and maybe even turn them into a Duergar, right? So that's kind of my thing with some of the standard ancestries in All Hail Yogg, is that in Undune, is that rather than saying, like, all drow are evil, or all Duergar are evil, or tieflings, or, you know, orcs, or whatever, the idea is that certain, like, anyone who gets exposed to Yogg can turn into, you know, sort of a fiendish person. So a drow is just an elf that has been exposed to, you know, sort of Yoggothic radiation. A tiefling is just a human who has been exposed to it. And most of the time, in those cases, like, you can get a lot of tieflings and stuff that have been exposed to it, but aren't evil necessarily. Too much exposure can, right? But, like, there were whole cities when Yogg sort of was sprung on the earth in the beginning of the Fourth Age that were turned from humans to tieflings. That doesn't make them evil, right? Ooh, even the judge couldn't get in. Oh, that's cool, Shadow. Yeah, there's, like, something in the door that prevents the judge. So I like the idea of there being one dwarf who was left behind, right? And they kind of were whispered at endlessly by Yogg, and eventually sort of became a Duergar, right? And so there's, like, one person still alive in the hold, and they're sustained by Yogg's evil. The dwarf who was supposed to unpetrify Clan Lodestone has slowly, over years, sort of mutated into a Duergar that's mad and devoted to Yogg and seeks actively to disable the seal. But maybe they, like, this Duergar doesn't know how the seal works and has struggled for years to open it. So almost like a sort of a crazed cultist, right? That's cool. Okay. So it gives you kind of like a boss monster for the dungeon when you go in. Okay, that's a lot of history. But I think that works. Yeah, that's neat. Okay, so let's talk about some other stuff with Clan Lodestone. That's kind of a little bit more relevantly, like, how they will impact the campaign. But let's talk about this notion of their philosophy. So they are all about unity, right, within the clan. I was toying with this idea that maybe they don't have a Thane. Like, maybe the way they work is that they are much more democratic and they are just ruled by their peer council. Because I like the idea of, like, kind of no one standing above anyone else. That, like, there are some things about them that are admirable, right? They are these, like, communal, you know, egalitarian, kind of almost communistic. Like, if the dwarves are sort of, like, yeah, the poor sap can't wake the rest to figure it out because he's evil now. Yeah, if he does wake them, then they'll be like, what are you doing, right? But he's, like, stuck in this limbo state. Yeah, okay. So their philosophy is, like, the unity of the clan before all. You know, it is noble to lay down your life to serve for your clan, only by standing shoulder to shoulder. Yeah, no shield can stand above the rest. Shoulder to shoulder can the phalanx endure the waves of foes set against it. I think there is kind of a, like, anyone not a member of Clan Lodestone is an enemy. Like, I think there's kind of this, like, xenophobic, I guess, but, like, it's not directed at any particular group. It has this almost, like, fascistic, like, if you're not a member of the clan, then in some way you are kind of, like, seeking ill, right? Like you can't possibly mean anything positive for the clan if you aren't a member of the clan, right? They will adopt people if they marry in and things like that, but they are, like, it's kind of the dwarven idea of suspicion cranked to 11, right? Distrust any outside the clan. Yeah, let's do it this way. Any outside Clan Lodestone, for they are enemies. Any outside Clan Lodestone, for they do not have our people's best interests at heart. Best interests at heart. Stand together, stand strong. Yeah, okay. I think that's cool. Let's talk about their relationship with other clans. So, they are very isolationist and strange. Let's go up to the True Silvers. Because I kind of think they basically just have the same relationship to other clans. You know? Like, I don't think they really make big distinctions between... Let's see, how do I describe it here for Lodestone? Viewed as isolationist weirdos. This is from True Silver's perspective. Viewed as isolationist weirdos, there was precious little contact between Clan True Silver and Clan Lodestone. Always paying their taxes on time, they were nonetheless silent for much of Khûm's history. When they did arrive at court or make deals, it was always viewed not with suspicion, but more apprehension. No one knew what to make of the iron-minded warriors. I kind of think that's right. I mean, I think that's definitely their relationship with True Silver. I don't think they have standing relationships with any of the other Elder Clans, right? Like, you can look at Deep Vein, who are, again, kind of the, like, traditionalists, and they have this, like, long rivalry with Iron Spring, who are these progressives. But I think the notion of Lodestone as having no relationships outside of that, right? Yeah, I think that's right. So then we have our Underclans. So how do they kind of relate to their Underclans? I liked the notion of their Underclans having, like, oh yeah, you're here, Chatter, let's talk about this. One of these clans definitely is good at making golems. And I think one of them, I like the idea of, like, an earth elemental clan as well. But I like the idea of them having, like, if they have kind of a standoffish relationship to the rest of the Elder Clans, you know, how do they, like, if they eradicated an Underclan, if they just, like, absolutely, like, almost genocidally got rid of one of these clans, again, kind of think, like, Tywin Lannister, Reigns of Castamere type stuff, you know? If they just, like, obliterated one clan in order to keep this secret, then it kind of feels like their relationship with these Underclans is very, like, I don't want to say like dictatorial, but it's almost more like the secret police, right? Like they kind of, I think it's largely silent, but every once in a while, Lodestone will come out and they will do something, you know, with like no explanation, or, you know, they will come and they will like take half of the clan's this, or they will say like, you two are going to get married, right? Like it's this very authoritarian. I like the idea of internally them being very egalitarian, but then because they don't trust anyone, they have a very adversarial relationship with all the other clans. I think that's cool. So let's talk about some of these clans, who they are, what their deal is. So we have Stack Spear is one of the few that I've named. Their hold, dwelling in Spear's Take, I believe is the name of their hold. Stack Spear are famous weaponsmiths. Smiths, not renowned for magical weapons, but instead for quantity of weapons, magical weapons, but instead for the sheer size, and speed. For the sheer speed at which the weapons are made, and the sheer size of their armory. So I liked the idea of there being a plot line involving the characters discovering, like, hey, Spear's Take is actually over here. If we go there, we can find a huge trove of weapons, where like their weapons remain there, and they're kind of like there for the taking. I'm trying to figure out like what their relationship is like to Lodestone. I think like they, I don't want to say it's friendly, but I almost like the idea that it's sort of like cordial. They, of all the clans, have the most cordial relationship with Clan Lodestone. And I like the idea that they were sort of told to stockpile these weapons and have been doing it for years because Clan Lodestone told them to do that, right? So their place is called Spear's Take. Now, Golems. So we have Golems and Earth Elementals. They could be separate clans. They could be the same clan. Those are two different, like, kind of disciplines, right? Like, making an Elemental and making a Golem are not necessarily the same thing. Like, Elementals are made kind of like through wizardry in Ondune, whereas Golems, you know, it's usually there's like the manual of Golems and stuff like that. So they obviously have a lot of golems, and I think you will find like animated statues and stuff like that all over the place in Khûm. So I like the idea of there being one of these underclans that is like particularly good at doing it, but I'm trying to figure out like what's their like angle, what's their thing. The notion of the earth elementals is interesting too, because dwarves tend to be kind of suspicious of arcane magic. You know, they are kind of the pioneers of divine magic. So if you had a clan who made earth elementals, it feels like that's more of an overt embrace of wizardry than most of the clans have, right? So like, you know, was there a dwarven wizard that founded that clan, or just like an elementalist? You know, I kind of like that. I think the golems we'll come back to, but like, I think the earth elementals, I don't know their name. Earth Elemental, like founded by a famous elementalist. Maybe it's like a dwarven artificer, an elementalist. This clan is known for creating earth elementals from raw stone. You know, it's not like a golem where they are kind of fashioned. It is, you know, just like gesturing and summoning an earth elemental out of the rock. Like, maybe they're kind of druidic? That's kind of cool. Yeah, I think druids can summon elementals, right? Is that a thing? Let me see. Druid elemental summoning. Because, yeah, it being founded by a dwarven druid is kind of neat. Conjure elementals. Yeah. All worth an elemental spirit. Yeah, I think it's like a... Is it a druid spell? Can druids cast that? I'm trying to figure it out. I just want to see like whose spell list it is. They can. The druids can conjure that. Yeah, summon elemental is from Tasha's. Yeah, it's a druid spell. Okay. Yeah, I think it's a dwarven druid. It's like a druidic clan. Yeah, that's kind of cool. So like founded by a dwarven druid. The dwarves of Earth Elemental, 4th and 5th level druids. Okay, yeah, that's cool. Are skilled at summoning elementals from the raw stone. They are... I kind of like the idea of like them living... They're almost like hippies, right? Like they live in like unworked caves, right? Their hall is unworked. Natural stone. They disdain mining, right? And instead practice like sort of elementalism, and instead practice... What is the term? Like, I always get asceticism and asceticism mixed up. Practice asceticism, denying the like earthly wants. Denying... You know, they're kind of these like woodsy hippie druids. There's a period in dwarven history after like a big horrible mining disaster where the dwarves kind of turn away from mining briefly, and I like the idea of this either being like they were founded during that time, or this is kind of like the heyday of that clan. You know what I mean? Like they're very much against like trappings and like smithing, right? They're kind of the opposite. They're anti-dwarves almost. Yeah, that's cool. I don't know what they're called, but it could be something like Bear Rock or Bear Stone, right? You know, that's kind of cool. So the Golems feel like they would be... That might be an artificer, right? Like, I could see them being kind of an artifice clan. So we have Iron Wonder, who is... They're devoted to Iron Spring, and they are... like artificers, but I don't think necessarily golems. I think golems are a whole different thing. Oh yeah, Zorn, right? So yeah. Oh, maybe they learned it from the Zorn. That's kind of cool. We talked about the Zorn being kind of like weird custodians that dwell in the deep places of the world, kind of imported by the gods to like watch over Yogg. So maybe the Zorns are involved with the Earth Elemental Clan. That could be cool. I'm trying to figure out this golem thing, because the golems, to me, that feels like a real like industry. You know, I feel like there would be a lot of demand for that. So maybe we lose the like a clan of druids. I like the idea of like a dwarven Tony Stark, kind of, right? Like almost the notion of like a brilliant oh yeah, so like founded by a maverick artificer who left Clan Iron Wonder. So I don't know what the Golem Clan is called. Golem Clan is the primary producer of iron, of clay. Oh, clay too, right? Because we have that shale. Clay, iron, or clay, stone, and iron golems in Khûm. Like, I like the notion of a clan that is wealthier and like more influential in Khûm's politics than Clan Lodestone, and Lodestone doesn't care because they don't care about politics, right? Like a cult of personality to their former, imagine like the Dwarven, like Elon Musk, like just like a spoiled brat, like an asshole, right? Hey, what's up, 2Army Kid? Yeah, we are talking about Dwarven clans for my upcoming Dwarven game. A cult of personality to their former founder. They are rich, politically influential, and would... Ooh, Cogwheel is kind of cool. And would overshadow more concerned Elder Clan. Yeah, Cogwheel's interesting. I feel like that implies kind of like a steampunk thing, where I feel like this is much more like Manual of the Golems, right? Like I almost want to do something with like Rune or whatever, right? That like he devised the like, or she. Let's find out. I kind of think of it being a woman actually, because it kind of like adds a little bit of a distance from like a Tony Stark or an Elon Musk like spoiled rich boy inventor. Yeah, I got a woman, so I think it's a female. So she, like, I like the idea of like a Rune or something like that being the name. I like Cogwheel though. I might write that down just as a name, because I think that's kind of an interesting idea for our clan, right? Like kind of the more machinery clan. Yeah, I'm not sure. That's cool. I'm gonna write down Cogwheel. I mean, where should I put that? I'm trying to find a place. Let me scroll all the way down. Do I have like... Oh yeah, ideas. Cool. So let's do names here. I like that name. I don't know that it works for these guys, but I think Cogwheel is cool. Ah, come on. Oh my god. Quit it. Oh, do they make the Gulyavari? Oh, that's cool. So the Gulyavari are like a weird kind of species of constructs. Cogwheel. Artificers. Clockwork. Because I think a Clockwork clan is kind of neat, right? Like, I like that. I don't know that it's the Golem people, because I like them having kind of an older style of magic. But the Gulyavari are clay golems, or stone golems. I forget exactly what they are, but they are like the corpse collectors. It was originally like a function of Dwarven society. You know, you had to, like, the 7th child or whatever of each clan had to go become one. But then eventually they phased it out, and now they just use these, like, spooky constructs that go and collect the dead and bring them off to the sort of, like, Dwarven necropolis. So maybe the first Gulyavari were made by these guys. Did they make the Gulyavari? Oops. The Gulyavari. Okay, the corpse collector. Okay, cool. So those are at least some ideas for some underclans. I guess there's also the, like, the destroyed underclan, right? What was their thing? I think they were like a humble clan with a simple purview. They were unlucky enough to stumble on the prophecy and were eradicated for their trouble. I want to like go look down on my list of... I mean, that could be Cogwheel, right? Like they could have been Clockwork. Labor Union, Mine Safety, Architects, Engineers, Priesthood, Shadow Clan, Food and Cooking, Underground, Seaweed, Sanitation, Sewers, and then the Priesthood. It could be Cogwheel, but I feel like that's, again, it's like too many Artifice clans connected to each other. I really don't hate the idea. Ooh, Cogwheel should be they should be loyal to Cloud Peak. Yeah, let's do that. So, okay, this might take a little bit of extra work. So Cloud Peak has the flying castle, right? And oh shit. I'm sorry guys. Let me fight with this for a minute. They have the flying castle, and the flying castle is like full of all these traps. There is a trap clan called Quicklime, but I like the idea of there also being like clockwork would have been really important in making the flying castle, and like we can make clockwork like a big theme in the flying castle, and then I think Clan Cogwheel can absolutely work with that. So let's do that. Let's go Clan Cloud Peak. Yes, that is the one you saw. Yep, that's Castle Cloud Peak. You did see that. So I just want to make sure I have this down. That way I don't forget. Yeah, I like the idea of a Clockwork Clan. Because I don't think that's quite Iron Wonder. They're kind of more generalized Artifice. And I don't actually necessarily think Clockwork is even magical. Doesn't have to be, right? I forget what their materials are or something. Other clans, who cares? For True Silver, but for this one, I want them to be Cogwheel. Makers of Clockwork. Yep, cool. We'll figure out their philosophy later. All that blah, blah, blah. Castle Cloud Peak. Okay, cool. All right. So I want to talk about this destroyed Underclan a little bit more. Like, I think they had to have something like really innocent. They were like a not big deal clan, the destroyed one, the one that Clan Lodestone like obliterated. Like something small, something like not a big. What do we have already for these? So we have White Coin, who are metallurgists, gem cutters, and ambergris, who are alchemists. We have Broad Beam, who make like tunnels. Oh yeah, Pottery Clan, bingo! You got it, 2 Army Kid. Yep. They are a ceramics clan. I don't know what their name is. You know, it's like Spin Wheel or something like that. A clan that's perfect, devoted to ceramics. Ceramics, particularly with shale. Shale. They were a humble clan with a simple purview. Until... Yeah, I think they're like, their hold is constructed on the Kudranone. Right, they're kind of like a riverside clan. That's cool. Which is, yeah, Kudranone's the big river. Yeah, that's great, 2 Army Kid. Totally pottery. Because we specifically talked about there being a lot of ceramics in this area, like a lot of clay. Is constructed on the Kudranone. And what was I going to say? There was one other thing. Shoot. Yeah, I forget. Okay, well, we'll come back to it. Okay. So, we're almost done with Lodestone. Oh yeah, that's what. Yep, that's what it was. Ever since their destruction, ceramics has been a lost art. Clan Shatterrock. That's actually not a bad name. Has been a lost art in Khûm. Oh yeah, I don't want to do Shatterrock though because you get that double R thing. I guess you do Shatterstone, but I have so many. I like the idea of them like specifically saying that like the point of it is that it's fragile. That's kind of cool. Like Shatter is cool too. Well, they would maybe avoid that word because the shattering. You can do like Splinter Rock, but again that double R. Again, my instinct is immediately like Splinter Stone, which I think is kind of cool. But we have Split Stone as a clan. We also have like a bunch of Lodestone and Shaped Stone and like a bunch of other ones. So I'm trying to avoid using stone in the name of every single clan. You know what I mean? Like, this is my instinct. But it's literally the Elder Clan is Lodestone. Broken Stone's kind of cool. What about Shard? I guess we have Bright Shard. But I'm trying to think of like with cracks and stuff, right? Like crack or... Ooh, Firestone is kind of cool. Ooh, can we get Kiln in there maybe? Kiln is a cool word. Maybe Kiln is in the name of the seat. Kiln. Something Kiln. Yeah, Broken Rock. Break Rock. Like Fragile Rock. Fragile Rock. It's kind of funny because it's just Fraggle Rock. It's like Fraggle Rock with one letter missing. Okay, we're not gonna call it this, but I do like the idea. I want to see what Fraggle Rock looks like. Or Fragile Rock. No. I like the idea that, like, if we did do Fraggle Rock, that, like, they got obliterated. Oh, no. The poor Fraggles. Destroyed clan. Yeah, we'll come back to it. I'm so picky about names, everybody. Like, these are all totally fine ideas. I'm just like, I also have every other clan name rolling around in my head, so, like, I don't want to... Frackstone. Frack Rock. So I don't want to, like, shoot anyone's ideas down. I think these are all good, but, like, I have so many other ones floating around, so I don't want to dwell on names. It's the kind of thing I just have to, like, sit and chew on for forever, and then eventually, like, it's that, right? But those are all good. I like, let me put, like, some different ideas down. I like Break. I like Shatter. Splinter. You know, I think it's something like that, but I don't want to, like, sit here and be like, no to ideas, because I'm a total name snob. But let's talk about their politics right now. So we have discussed the idea that they are, like, so they're petrified currently, right? The whole clan is sealed in stone. But that doesn't mean that they wouldn't have sort of political leanings. So with the rest of these clans, for example, we'll go back to Golden Plate. The idea here is that this clan, what they want more than anything else is legitimacy in the eyes of the crown. They're kind of like, original sin is that they, during a rebellion, like way back in kind of the founding of the kingdom, they were an underclan who turned on their elder clan. And so they have always kind of been conscious of that, right? Of like, oh, you know, does anybody really recognize us as a real clan? So when at the beginning of the campaign, when Harada, the sort of like powerful NPC at the center of the campaign, sort of makes her claim on the throne, the characters have a chance to persuade each elder clan, but they each kind of have an axe to grind, right? So the heads of Clan Golden Plate are ready to swear fealty to whichever clan can provide a match for their son, right? Ooh, Stone Scrap is kind of cool. That's an interesting idea. Let me write that down. Like a scrap clan of like Dross. Let me write that. That's neat. So during that opening meeting, the characters can like try to persuade them, and if they succeed, then, you know, the clans might agree to back Harada's claim, usually with some kind of a caveat. If they fail, then they might become like an oppositional clan. Scrappers, scavengers, like melting down metal and dross, like a Junker clan almost. That's kind of cool. Junker clan. So in that case, but what's different about Clan Lodestone is that they are not present for that meeting, right? Like they predicted the fall of True Silver because they saw it in the prophecy, but then they sealed themselves away. So they're not really like making a claim for the throne. If you unfreeze them, what do they think, right? What is their... Maybe we need to do their prominent members first. But they don't have a Thane, right? The idea is that they are just ruled by a peer council. So I'm trying to figure out, like, what do they politically think? Like, I think if they saw True Silver fall, right? Like, they... view, I think they have that very aggressive antagonistic relationship again, right? They view the rest of Khûm as parasites, right? Like, these are not... I'm trying to think. Like, I like the idea that they assumed that the world ended, right? And so when they wake up and they discover that there are dwarves still living in Khûm, that they would feel like... It's kind of like the Rapture, right? Like, they kind of thought they were going to the rapture, and then they're woken up, and they didn't go to the rapture. So, like, politically, then, what is their stance? Do they support a true Silver King to kind of go back to the way things were? Do they support whoever wakes them up? You know, can they be persuaded? Like, what's their thing? What's their problem? So, like, most of the clans, again, have, like, a thing you have to do. Like, Clan Cloud Peak, or, like, the floating clan, they want you to get their castle back, right? If you can do that, then you can secure their allegiance. Clan Brightshard actually doesn't want a crown because they'll have to pay extra taxes to them, so they kind of end up playing all the sides off of each other. Both Clan Ironspring and Clan Deepvein are making claims to the throne themselves, right? So it's like, what is Lodestone's, like, dog in the fight, right? Maybe they don't have one. Yeah, the petrification stasis pre-sorrow is based on the prophecy. Exactly, Shadowrunner. What did they think was going to happen? You know, they saw the sorrows happening. And again, if you want to talk about, like, misinterpretations, you could do a thing where they misinterpreted the meaning of the prophecy to something else, right? Like, they saw the fall of True Silver. For sure, they saw that in the prophecy. So they don't believe True Silvers are around anymore. They wouldn't be, like, supporting a True Silver presidency, a True Silver dynasty or sovereignty like the Oath Shields are. You know, it's like, what did they think? I like them being very, like, adversarial to the rest of the clans. Maybe they're, like, open in the way, like, they're anti-royal, they're anti-kingdom in the same way that Brightshards are, but they're open about it, right? Like, they are not trying to, like, hide behind that. But I guess it just kind of, like, solidifies this idea. Yeah, what if they have a hidden stronghold within... That's kind of what I'm thinking, Jose. Yeah, that, like, they actually then become a claimant too. But I feel like then there's no, like, what is the benefit to waking them up then? Right? Like, then it just seems like all they did was... Oh, yeah, the other clans are going to be... Whoa, yeah, what if it's, like, really bad to wake them up? Right? What if they kind of, like, go on, like, a holy crusade and they just start, like, warring against the other clans? Yeah. That's kind of interesting. Right, yeah, so they were convinced that the world, that it's like a flood, right? Like the sorrows are coming to purge, yeah, it's like Noah, like the sorrows are coming to purge the world and, like, push all of the, like, unworthy dwarves out of Khûm, right? And then when we awaken, we will, like, only the pure will remain. Only Clan Lodestone will kind of have run of Khûm. And so when they wake up and they discover that there are other dwarves there, they are aggressive towards them, right? They're like, no, you are leeches, you are roaches, right? Like, this wasn't what the gods told us. Yeah, that the world was wiped clean for them. If they could endure the sorrows, they would rule all of Khûm. When they awaken and discover dwarves and humans and elves still there, they are determined to take back what is theirs. So it's not what they perceive as that. Take back what they perceive as theirs. Like, it's not a matter of, like, we want to be king, right? We're gonna, like, go through the steps and do it legitimately. I think they're just gonna conquer, right? Like, that's kind of interesting because they would have this weapons take, and they might even have, like, yeah, do they have, like, a terracotta army? Right? Do they have an army of golems, like, stored below? And they have the whole clan, right? Like, it's the clan at its full strength. It's not like a couple of weak survivors who crawled back like the rest of these clans. And their standing army would have been humongous, right? So yeah, I love the idea that, like, you have just unleashed this, like, this massive standing army onto Khûm. And, like, you know, maybe they could be directed towards your enemies. Like, maybe Lodestone will go around and stomp on Cloud Peak and stomp on Iron Spring and stuff like that, right? Like, yeah, I think they have just like a massive standing army. They were like slowly building up, and maybe they're terracotta soldiers, right? Maybe they're like warriors, maybe they're like golems. Yeah, the notion of like the Golem Clan having to pay tribute to them. Yeah, I think they would. I think they would be deactivated. So they're like statues they could turn on, theoretically. I mean, I also kind of just like the idea that they are just soldiers. That, like, they're just petrified soldiers, right? And that you just unpetrify them, they just have a massive army. That might be the better play. But then I guess if you had them be golems, maybe that's a thing that the players could, like, get control of the golems, right? And then they would have a big army. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Oh, you know what you could do? 500 years can change ideology, but they've been frozen, right? Like, what you could do is you could make it a point of, like, that's how the golems are programmed to think anyone else than a lodestone dwarf is a post-apocalyptic monster to slay. I kind of think you're right. Yeah. Jose. Because here was my thought, right? What if it's a thing where... So their whole political idea is that they are all about the peer council. Like, they are democratic inside the clan, but they view the rest of the world as being, like, antagonistic and they're adversarial towards them. What if the idea is that the terracotta soldiers are actually just the petrified... Like, the terracotta soldiers are actually just the petrified members of the clan. And you awaken some of them, right? You awaken, like, the leadership. And by doing that, they can then control the petrified members of the clan, right? Like soldiers. You know, we will not wake them to this horror. We will purge the land first, and then we will awaken the rest of the clan. But, right, if you can awaken the rest of the clan, then, like, they could kind of be voted out of power, right? The whole point is that they're, like, democratic inside. They don't have a Thane. They don't have anyone in charge. So the notion of, like, the first group of people that you unpetrify, you know, decide, okay, we will wield the army against Khûm, and then we will wake up our clan. As opposed to, you know, as opposed to, like, we have the army and we have these terracotta soldiers. I love the idea of, like, if you can wake the whole clan, then they will sort of see reason, you know, because they've been, like, steered into violence against their will. Yeah, okay, I think it's that. So we'll put awakening. When the clan, because you can, like, hide them, right? They could be, like, lower levels of the dungeon that the party doesn't know about. And when you wake them up, wake up the first level of, like, the leadership or whatever, they decide, okay, we're going to do this, and they activate the army. When the peer council is awakened, or is unpetrified, they take one look at the world outside, conclude that there's been a terrible mistake, and that they must purge Khûm of all the non-believers. Everyone who survived the sorrows and wasn't meant to. I love that too, because the idea that, like, you would wake them up and your first problem is, like, we have to seal the breach, right? Like, Yogg is coming through, And they would be like, of course, and they would go and they would help you. And then afterwards, there would be this moment of like, wait a minute, what do you want to do? Right? You would then realize like, oh, they're not allies, right? Like they maybe were briefly kind of like enemy of my enemy, but no, we are not allied. They have this totally different goal, right? Petrified Clan. Lodestone's army appears to be a golem army, but is actually the petrified members of the rest of the clan. Petrified members of the rest of the clan, sworn to obey the peer council, or like whoever has the item, or whoever has the MacGuffin, or whatever, right? The MacGuffin. They fight tirelessly, programmed to think that anyone who is not a Lodestone dwarf is a post-apocalyptic demon. If awoken, though, or if unpetrified, though, they could become allies against the peer council, who has chosen this violent fate for them. So then it's like what's cool about that is that thematically it's about unity, yes, in the sense of like you need to ask all the people, but it's also about like straying from unity, right? That like it's about individuality. It's about waking someone up and saying, what do you want? Not what does the clan want? Oh, actually, I do have an item called Circlets of Golem Control. Yeah, I created one for another dungeon. Yeah, that's perfect. Circlets. Is that a thing? Did that actually exist and I just thought that I invented it? Because like you were so quick with it, it makes me wonder if that's a real thing and I just like thought that I invented it. Circlets of Golem Control. I've seen some like homebrew versions, but yeah, maybe. I don't know. Cool. So let's talk about the prominent members. I think it's just the peer council. So rather than a Thane, than a Thane, I don't think you discover a dwarf within. I think you destroy the dwarf within. Right? They're not like imprisoned in there. They have been turned to stone. So if you like crush or destroy one of these stone golems, you're actually destroying the dwarf, right? I think the party thinks of them as being golems, and you can do that cool terracotta thing where like they all have unique faces and stuff, right? It's like, wow, these are incredible golems, and that they've been presumably in Khûm long enough in the Dwarven Kingdom that they've been seeing all kinds of great statues like that, so they're not going to be too suspicious, right? But I like the idea of like, do you want to fight them? Not only are they difficult to fight because they're made of stone, but they are also people that are maybe fighting against their will. Okay, cool. Used a rod. Shield Guardians are an amulet. Yeah. So cool. Yeah, Circle of Golem Control is perfect. Rather than a Thane, the Clan Lodestone. Yeah, they could totally find that difference. I think like someone could make an Arcana check to Army Kid to realize like, oh, there's no like rune on the forehead that you normally need for a golem or that kind of a thing. But they might not be thinking that way, right? And I mean, if they find it out, it's not like meant to be a secret. But I like that idea of, oh wait, these aren't just golems. These were once people that have been petrified, right? That voluntarily petrified themselves, but not to do this. Is ruled simply by a peer council. All the masters in the clan. And votes democratically on everything. However, like, I think... I forget what we called it, but like in the design of True Throne, which is the like the center of the Dwarven Kingdom, the capital, we talked about the idea of like a deep senator or a deep master, right? So I think that's what we're talking about here for these dwarves, is that like the ones they initially awaken are like the deep masters, right? The deep masters. Like you would inevitably in a society like this, you would inevitably get like, it's almost like the difference between like a senator and a congressperson, right? That like a deep master has more or like a house whip or something. Like they have more authority, they have more experience, and so they are like kind of like an oligarchy over the rest of the clan, right? The most experienced masters, they are a small council, small oligarchy over the clan, over the ostensibly democratic clan. They are the ones with the amulets of golem control. They command the terracotta, or the petrified army. They wish to wipe Khûm clean. And I come up with who they are individually later, but I like there almost isn't a difference between them, right? Like, clean from the undeserving. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we're gonna skip over historical members, because again, I kind of like the idea that like you don't really know anyone famous from Clan Lodestone because they never distinguish themselves, right? But let's talk about Threshold. Maybe this will be the last thing we do tonight. Threshold is their seat of power, and the only idea I had about Threshold is the reason it has that name is that no one in Khûm has ever been over it. Right, unless you are a member of Clan Lodestone, you have never seen the inside, right? A secretive mountain hold in the Phalanx. Threshold. Oh, be the founder? Yeah, that's true. Threshold is earns its name from the fact that none have ever crossed it. None outside the clan have ever crossed it. Like, as far as they're concerned, it's just a threshold. They don't even know that there's a hold behind there. I also think that means that it is, like, extremely defensible. Yeah, they're thousands of years gone. Right? Like, the point is that, armies have broken upon this gate, right? Let me look at how I do the designs. Yeah. So it's design a doorway on the mountainside. It is the prototypical, or is the archetypal guest gate. So a guest gate in a dwarven hold is basically like the place that non-clan members are supposed to go through, and it's a guest gate because it's always like the most defensible, right? The idea is that people who come to visit should know how hard it is to break in here, right, and how defensible they are. So you kind of show off your murder holes and your traps and your giant steel golems and things like that around the guest gate, whereas like the entrance that most dwarves that live there use is hidden, right? And it's not so obvious and ostentatious. It's like you're drawn to, that must be the doorway, as opposed to like the secret hidden door over here in Khûm. Let's try to think of like what are some cool defenses that they have, right? Obviously they use electricity, so that could be a part of it. But it could also, like, I like the idea of like multiple, like, airlocks and things like that. Yeah, demon hordes, dragons, giants, nobody's ever been through, right? Like, it is almost like concentric rings, right? Like you have to get through all these different, oh yeah, what if it's that ring thing where it's like you come in one side and then you have to go all the way around and then in that side and then all the way around, right? And the entire time you're kind of being like shot at and stuff. Yeah. Its exterior, a gauntlet of murder holes, and traps. The attackers must circle the hold 7 times before reaching its heart. Right, it's like that switchback. Like you come in the front door, and then the next way through is to go around the outside. Yeah, totally. It's got like shock floors, electrical floors, and magnetic walls, and all kinds of nastiness. Cool. Its history. Let me look at the history for another one just to get like a. I was never permitted to relocate there. Okay. Long as Clan Deviant is ruled, they've expanded the breadth of the mine surrounding Sunken Seat. It's just so tricky because like no one's ever been in. So like, how do you talk about its history, right? Ooh, they cast heat metal. That's cool. Yeah, basically like Glyph of Warding. What is that spell called? I think it's called Glyph of Warding. Magnetic walls. Heat metal runes. Yeah, I don't know much for its history. So there's the breach, right? The breach, an opening in the world from which Yogg might crawl, but the dwarves have stoppered this hole. And pour lightning into it to keep it closed. I think that there are like, I like the being kind of vertical, right? That it's like if there's the hole, they've put this huge plug in, and then it like Yogg is slowly eating its way through. That there are like barracks where the petrified soldiers store. The petrified soldiers are arranged, and then they would have like armed themselves and stuff, right? Arranged in row upon row upon row. There has to be like a central citadel where the dwarves fall back to, but never have needed to. Okay, I think I'm losing steam a little bit. We talked about some cool electrical stuff earlier. Oh yeah, mine carts. We talked about that idea, right? Like, what about like a network of electrified mine carts? What if it's like they're like cable cars or something, right? Like, yeah, of electrified cable cars that crisscross the hold. Let's talk about their like technology. The Lodestone allows Clan Lodestone to utilize technology no other clan ever has. As such, as brutal and militaristic as they seem, they are highly advanced. Militaristic as they seem, they are highly advanced and have been for centuries. Right? Yeah, the notion that like they have had this technology forever. So there's one other power in the world that had electrical power historically. I think they're called Ashunavalo, and they're like a Triton empire in the south, in the far southern seas. I kind of think of them as sort of like Undune's version of Wakanda, where it's this like remote place. Yeah, not singing metal. That's ferrofluid, and that's held by the by iron spring. Yeah, you put like a tone through it, and it takes different shapes. But I like the idea of, yeah, like this kind of convergent evolution that, like, through different magical means, different cultures would have developed these technologies, right? So the Dwarven version of electricity is very different from the Triton version of electricity, and so on and so forth, right? Like, even Dr. Hubert in All Hell Yogg uses some electricity, right, to kind of make Elizabeth kind of Frankenstein. But that's much later in the world's history. Okay, I think that's good. We're gonna pass over famous person just for now, because again, I think I like the idea that, like, there aren't really any, you know, that, like, because they're so about denying the individual, they're all about the community, that, like, they wouldn't really have heroes in the traditional sense. But cool, I think we talked Lodestone to death. I think that was really cool. I really love some of the things we came up with. The idea of the petrified army and the idea of, like, them containing Yogg is kind of cool. Oh yeah, geomagnetic versus bioelectric, exactly. Yeah, I'm really happy with that, everyone. Thank you for coming out. I know we're ending a little early, but it's always just like, you know, get the topic done and move on from there. I don't really want to start another clan yet. It did make me realize we still have to do Clan Cloud Peak, so that might be another one down the line. Not sure what we'll do next week. Could be monsters again, but I feel like we just did one of those. So maybe we'll do random encounters. We have to get through the, like, underground encounters, so those could be kind of fun. Maybe it'll be that. Yeah, we'll see how we feel once we get there. We haven't done, like, a map one in a long time either. Come up with cool locations. But we will cross that bridge when we come to it. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out with all of your suggestions. It was awesome to see Shadowrunner and 2Army Kid. Jose, it was great to see you again, man. And David popped in there a little bit way back at the beginning. Yeah, it was a pretty good chat. I was a little worried no one would make it. I'm trying to be more regular. I'm hoping that is helping increase engagement in these chats. So if you like me, you can subscribe to our channel. Go ahead and click that that little red button to subscribe, and you'll get notified when we go live. I will be streaming again on Tuesday in the afternoon, doing an adventure prep stream. I have a big exciting adventure coming up. I have, like, a battle of the bards that I'll be running on Thursday that I'll need some help with on Tuesday. So that would be awesome if you could join me for that. Otherwise, we stream on Twitch as well, with a video game stream. That's twitch.tv/xpwebseries. I've been kind of talking through some Curse of Strahd there, but I'm thinking about maybe starting to play Obra Dinn, which I haven't had a chance to play yet. It looks awesome. I loved Papers, Please, so I'm excited to see this. I mean, it's like about a ship in the 1800s. Like, how could I not be excited? If you like my content, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at XPWebSeries, and I talk a lot about dwarves there and lots of other world lore and running games and tips and tricks and that kind of a thing. Check that out. And if you really like my content, you can hire me to run a game for you. I am a professional dungeon master, and that is my full-time job. I run games for people. I'm almost at my capacity in terms of the number of games I can run, but I would love to do a one-shot or a birthday party or anything like that. So find me at prodm.net. That's pro-dm.net, and I would love to run a game for you. Until next time, thank you so much for coming and giving me all of your help in devising these very creepy, cultic dwarven clans. But I will see you next week. Until then, happy adventuring.